Once upon a time in the land far, far away called Paris, there were two storytellers named Pierre, Corneille, and Moliere, and they were not very happy about how their life was going on.
I was 21, fell in love, and was rejected, so I consoled myself by writing poetry, which then led to writing plays. My play, Les Cid, was one of my most famous plays, was loved by the audience, but criticized by the French Academy. This has brought me down, so I think it is time to try another hobby.
My father requested that I change my name so I would not embarrass my family or the king's court because acting was still an unacceptable profession in France. So I also thought it was time to try another hobby. Tennis it is.
They found a tennis court and started to play. Thank goodness it was in a secluded area because they were not good at all. Meanwhile, there is a large group of people who are passionate about putting on plays. They searched and searched for the right place to put on their performance.
Aw man, too busy. Let's keep searching.
They finally found this secluded area where the two storytellers were trying to play tennis.
Woohoo! Let's try to play here and ask them if we can share the space.
After bickering back and forth of who should have the space, the storytellers finally tell them that they can help with the production of their play because they once were famous.
I was one of the three great 17th century French dramatists, along with Moliere and Racine. I have been called the founder of French tragedy and produced plays for nearly 40 years. When I was young, I fell in love but was rejected, so I decided to write a play about two young lovers who were together, since I didn't get that.
Theater in 17th century France was defined by rules of society, structure, language, character, behavior, and story. It seems odd that in a period of such growth and change, there was also a lot of control placed on creativity. I am heavily influenced by Commedia dell'arte. I mocked the upper classes, and this made a lot of enemies for me. I even made a great enemy of the church, and at one point, the archbishop threatened that he would excommunicate anyone who saw, performed, or even read Thtr. Thtr is the nation's most treasured dramatic literature and a proud cultural export. I am appreciated by the theater artists and audiences around the world, but for the French people, it is not an exaggeration to say that I am part of their national soul. What Shakespeare is to the English, I am to the French. I am considered the creator of modern French comedy, and many of my words and phrases are still used currently in France.
Turns out that one of the people traveling in the group also is a famous storyteller named Racine.
I, Jean-Baptiste Racine, am famous too, you know, orphaned at the age of 4 and being forced to live with my grandparents. But once my grandfather died, I went along with my grandmother to live in the convent where I was provided with a classical education. Reading plays was frowned upon by my successors. I was expected to study law, but who really wants to do that? I am now what they call a French dramatist. All of the plays I have written are considered to be examples of neoclassical perfection. Not only am I a perfectionist at what I do, but I am also a master at writing in Alexandrian verse. One sentence must rise, and from that peak it must fall. But this may happen quickly, or then it may be slow. But it must keep on thus, however dull the rush. Other writers have been so intrigued by my work and have tried to translate it into English and put their own spin to it. Not that I want to brag or anything, but I am that good to where it's nearly impossible to do so. My work is my work, and it shall remain that way. Pierre, Moliere, do you guys ever use Alexandrian verse? No, who does that anymore?
They all laughed and performed and were putting on a fabulous production when Charles IX interrupts and says, "Wow, this is such a great idea. I love tennis and think this is how productions should be put on forever because we only have one theater. So I, Charles IX, declare that this is where plays shall happen." To this day, productions are still being dictated by people where they should be put on and what is acceptable for the audiences to view.
The end.